Welcome. I'd like to call our meeting to order. If you would all rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please raise your hats. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I make a motion that we approve the agenda as published.
Second?
I second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions? All in favor? Aye. No opposed. Motion passes. At this time, we have people signed up for public comment, and we have a full agenda, so I'm just reminding you, I'll be running on a little 3-minute timer. Nothing personal, but we'll just keep things moving along. And the first is Ann Neal. Welcome, Ann.
Thank you. Do you want me to move my computer?
No, you're fine.
All right.
Absolutely.
Yes. Hi.
Hi.
Go ahead.
Hello, board members of Lake Potawatomi School District. My name is Ann Neal, and my husband Aaron Levi is sitting in the audience. We own a home at 516 Lavina Avenue in South Sandpoint, which has property. Our property butts up against Washington School's field that is just south of Erie. The house is finished, and through a whole bunch of miscommunication and unfortunate circumstances with the city, our house is being called out of compliance for too much lot coverage. I want you to understand the house was built to code. It was built exactly as the approved plans. These are parts of the roof that should have been trellised, which are entire pieces now of roof. And the city is, and we have asked for a variance and we're denied twice. And so the city, we've come to you now that this is our third time contacting different people. Mr. Kelly was kind enough to come to our site a couple months ago and look at it. And the city planning department has urged us again to approach you about purchasing literally a 40-inch wide sliver of land that would run the whole length. So it comes to about 420 square feet in total that we would need to come into compliance. And it's literally about this wide, 40, and they encouraged us to come because they really think that this piece of property is inconsequential to the school district, that probably would never be used. Of course, I know probably, but it really is less than the width of a residential sidewalk. And I checked with a realtor in South Sandpoint to see what the going rate per square footage would be, and it's somewhere between 27 and 31 dollars per square foot. So times 420 square feet is somewhere between 11,000 and 13,000 fair market value, which we would be willing to pay and cover any surveying costs. If you could kindly consider our request to purchase this sliver of land from you, would help us not to have dismantle our property, which would be a huge positive for us. And I can imagine that those dollars could possibly be a benefit to the school district as well. And so I urge you, I told Mrs. Lewis, whatever forum that you believe would be the best to consider, whether it's getting us on the agenda for next 2 weeks or discussing it in executive session, maybe having Aaron and I come and talk with you personally. I don't know. You are in the best position to decide that, what would be best. But we humbly ask your kind consideration of our proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann. And I have Sherry Tilford on the list next. Hello, Sherry.
Hello
Welcome.
again. Thank you. It's been a while. My name is Sherry Tilford. My daughter is homeschooled and she attends the homeschool academy 1 day a week. And I normally spend quite a bit of time actually preparing facts and data and whatnot. I didn't bothered to do that today because in my experience, it's not reviewed by the board. I know you guys say you listen, but as far as I can tell, you just hear, and you don't actually consider all the facts that myself and other parents over the last, let's say 8 months have presented that are any sort of dissenting opinion that would go against what the Panhandle Health Board advises that you do with the students and the teachers in the schools. So I would ask that you actually consider the science and the facts, not the faith-based dogmatic scientism being pushed by the Panhandle Health Organization, which has no legislative authority in the first place. I can't imagine that you've actually gone over the data that says how damaging masking and keeping children apart can be. If you had gone over it, I can't imagine anyone in good conscience could continue that policy. So either you lack the critical thinking skills to make good decisions, or you agree that it's not a good decision and you put it forward anyway. Either way, I don't see how that qualifies you to stay on a board that makes decisions for the children in our community. I've heard all the concerns for why you think masking and anti-social distancing is a good idea. At the Homeschool Academy, we have neither full-time staff, nor janitors, nor bus service, so I don't see why the anti-social distancing needs to continue there whatsoever. So I would request that you consider removing all restrictions from the Homeschool Academy because they're completely baseless, unscientific, and unnecessary. Thank you.
And next on the public comment is Melinda Rossman.
Hello, Board of Trustees and Superintendent, audience. My name is Melinda Rossman. I'm an employee of the Lake Conroe School District, and I'm a property owner in Bonner County. And I prepared something to speak to. A year ago, this week, we got in the conversation, and everybody was freaking out. What do we do? What is this? What are we gonna do? What is this? And I was afraid because I have a respiratory issue. I was freaked out. I was calling you. I was talking to everybody I could. What's going on? I was afraid. I'm no longer afraid. And I just had my annual parent input meeting. And 30 families were there on Friday. And every single family said, thank you for keeping the masks off our children. Thank you for giving some sense of normalcy and love and nurturing to our children. And thank you for all the hard work that it takes to make that possible. Yes, we're practicing the distancing because we're told to. Yes, we're doing everything we can to keep our hygiene up and everything as we should in any given situation. But I think where we're at now, a year later, when we can't trust the media is not telling us the truth. The numbers, CDC on a weekly basis is changing their data. They're changing it weekly. Oh, maybe not, maybe. I mean, just 3 weeks ago in the Bonner County Bee, there was an editorial that said CDC says no flu reported this season. Really? The first time in 150 years there's no flu reported this season? And only COVID is being reported. And why I'm here is, you know, I see such a discrepancy with the athletes being able to participate and being seen weekly in the newspapers without masks on, but yet the very next day go into their cohorts with masks on. So there's something going on where we're creating an elitist mentality. And we've got to treat all children equally. We've got to move forward because nobody can tell us what we can do, and you guys can make a difference. This board can make a difference. I've said this about 3 times in the last 8 months. We can make a difference here by saying, no, our families don't want masks on our children. We know the truth, and this is not a pandemic. There's no number anywhere in the world that supports this as a true pandemic. No number. I'm sorry people have died, but people die every day, and I'm not cold-hearted. I'm a very passionate and caring person. I'm going to ask you that we all use our common sense, and we want to focus on our U.S. Constitution, and that we want to eliminate all these cohorts, district-wide, nationwide, worldwide. We want to eliminate all this mask usage, district-wide, nationwide, worldwide. We've got to start using our voices now. Speak softly, speak respectfully, but speak up. We've got to stop this chaos and stand up to this scamdemic and do what's right for our children, our families, our nation, and our world. We've got to do it, and we can start right here. I respectfully thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, Melinda. And our last public speaker is Rand Rosecrans.
Good. Speak softly, speak respectfully.
I come to you tonight with a message of gratitude and information based upon what's happening specifically at Lake Pondere High School. First, in the order of gratitude, I thank you. I would not be here were it not for you. Your support and what you've done to help me go from a chef to a teacher is amazing, and I can never say thank you enough. I'm going to stop now because my mascara starts to run. Okay. Next, what I'd like to say is a message of gratitude. I know that you folks, being on a local governing board, get pelted with thank yous and notes and cards and everything. So here's one more. Sorry for the sarcasm, because I've served on these type of boards before, and I know how challenging it can be. We have, with the help of many individuals, launched on an outdoor learning space project at Lake Pondere High School. With almost zero tax dollars, but yet with donations, with grants from the kind people at the Rotary Club, with individual supporters, Bonner Gardeners. We work also with the food bank. And what we're trying to do is, and this is our mission statement, it is a project, not mission statement, excuse me, the driving question. And the driving question is, how does Lake Pondere High School enhance our positive and productive learning culture while simultaneously serving the community of Sandpoint at large? And the answer to that is we have several boxes that we're going to grow vegetables and give to the food bank. Our kids are working every day, and last week we've torn out a fence. We've torn out all of our old gardens. We have a grant in to put new garden beds in. Also, another thank you I have to use to this man right here, because I've made several mistakes along the way. He's smart enough to say, no, wait a minute, that won't work, man. Don't try to do that. Or you can't do that. And I appreciate your guidance and support on it. It's been invaluable. The Rotary Club, I want to thank Debbie Love. I got Matt, my colleagues, and my principal. When this whole thing started, the pandemic, we had a training that we were going to go to. Well, that got canceled. And so Jeff said, okay, here's a website. And so that's how we've been doing this, based on project-based learning. We've been going with that website. Michelle Murphy, Diane Green with Green Tree Naturals. We have several worm farms that we're growing. Our kids are learning how to make fertilizer. The whole process of this, hands-on, is them being self-reliant, self-sufficient. And I start off this whole thing with asking my kids, do you know where the money comes from that pays for you being in this room right now and pays for my salary? It's a real interesting question, because there's a lot of different concepts in our youngsters about that. To teach them to appreciate what we have and to give back. That's about it. Like I said, it's just a thank you, to let you know what's going on over there, and to invite you to come by anytime. As the weather warms up, we're trying to build this outdoor learning space to get kids outdoors. It's kind of my answer to the pandemic. We're going to go outside, we're going to get fresh air. I won't get into the mask deal too much, but I'm sure going to look forward to when we don't wear these anymore.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, folks. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Rand. Okay, so at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Superintendent Tom Albertson.
Yeah, so this is the time we do some staff recognition, and we have a program that maybe a lot of people don't know about, and that's at Sandpoint Middle School, which is our Ski and Ride program. And are we in our third year or second year? Second year. It seems like three. So we have Adam Tajan, the teacher at Sandpoint Middle School, that it's a tough duty, but he takes the kids up to Schweitzer, and Principal Casey McLaughlin, who came with the idea to me and said, hey, what do you think about this? And so I would like to recognize them for, again, getting our kids out of the classroom and up to Schweitzer to take in, but there is some restrictions there. And so Casey and Adam, do you want to talk a little bit about that program?
Yeah, I mean, really, Adam approached me, so it's really his baby and his brainchild. So I'll let Adam do the talking, because he really is, he's really taken it and gone with it, and it's a pretty awesome program, so.
Sure. So we have 120 participants at the middle school this year. And really that number is based on Schweitzer kind of capping us at, this is about all that we can handle. So if you can get 120 kids, bring it on, let's do it. And so we didn't know how quickly that roster would fill up this year, and it filled up fairly fast when registration opened. We got there pretty quick. So
How often do you go?
we go 8 times during the school year, and it actually started about 5 years ago. We started going up once a year for a ski day, like they do, I believe, in 4th grade. And just seemed like middle school was the prime age to do a little more, you know, and having Schweitzer in our backyard and kind of knowing that there were possibilities and opportunities out there. We started researching a little more with Schweitzer. Hey, what are you guys willing to do? Found out that the Homeschool Academy was doing something similar and able to work a price point with Schweitzer that was reasonable for most kids. And so pitched it to Casey. We talked about it a bunch and kind of got the staff at the middle school on board. And last year we had just over 100 participants. This year we had 120, and the kids basically go up 8 times during the school year. And we try to have them be each week, so it's kind of all in one 2-month chunk of time. And really there's only 1 week in there where we have to kind of push it out. And everybody takes a lesson, and it's a 90-minute lesson during the day with Schweitzer's instructors. We've got chaperones set up. There's, you know, lodge moms in there to help with checking kids in, answer questions. We have groups that go out at 11 for kind of the beginner intermediate lessons, and then there's lessons for the more all-mountain advanced kids around 12:30. And it's really gotten a response that's just been like overwhelming from the parents and families that are involved. I mean, I had a kid last year who moved to Sandpoint recently, and he'd only been around snow for a few times. And so he skied last year, he's snowboarding this year, and he's able to go all over the mountain on both skis or a snowboard. And he'd never even really been around snow before. So, you know, the kids are loving it. They're kind of learning, you know, a little bit about mountain culture. And the lesson sometimes for the older kids isn't so much about, you know, how to ski necessarily, but it gets them to a point where, you know, their parents can maybe drop them off at the shuttle bus and they can go up on the weekend by themselves, and they don't have to have mom and dad with them all the time. They kind of learn, you know, the scene up at Schweitzer and where things are and, you know, how to get from point A to point B. So it's just been, you know, super fun. The kids are loving it. The parents are loving it.
It's a great motivator for
Yeah,
our kids too, right?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. So, and we've been able to tie it all in with behavior and, you know, staying on top of your academics. So each week, teachers are able to, like, essentially email me if a kid shouldn't or should be able to go. And then we let those parents know, and the kids need to stay on top of their grades and keep themselves academically eligible each week. And so, you know, just another way to kind of dangle that carrot out there and keep them on top of their schoolwork, which can be difficult with middle schoolers. Yeah. But all in all, yeah, it's been, I think the next step would be kind of finding a way to get a few more kids maybe that think they possibly can't afford it involved. And, you know, that'll be a step
I
in the future.
just have a comment.
Sure.
One of the reasons I moved here was to ski many years ago, and I was involved in the program when the kids went up there once a year.
Okay.
But let me just say, when I moved here, I was so surprised that there were so many kids that grew up here that didn't ski, that had never been skiing. So this is a fabulous program to get people started. And you're right, that's a perfect age, middle school, get them up there. All they need is one good experience and you get them hooked for life. So,
Absolutely.
nice going.
Well, and there's lots of moving parts involved, and so even, you know, the school board and the administrators at the middle school and the parents and staff, for everybody to kind of support it, you know, huge thanks to everybody involved, so.
That's a tremendous amount of work that Adam has put in, and so I, yeah,
Yeah.
I want to point that out. It's a lot of work.
Yeah, go ahead, trustee Susan.
So, yeah, I accolades to you for doing this. I think this is tremendous. Schweitzer is just too great of a local facility not to take advantage of. What other, you say you have a program, you take middle school students 8 times a season,
Right.
and the Homeschool Academy has a program. Is there still a program for, was it 4th graders or 5th graders?
I believe the 4th graders, yeah, at all of our elementary schools do go up once a year.
They're eligible 4 times the 4th grade program,
4th grade.
$10 a time.
That's great. Well,
So the school district provides, of course, your time and the transportation, and Schweitzer, helps with the other costs.
Yep. We, the kids, I do have every year I have parents say, hey, we not only want to pay for our son or daughter, but I always have a few that say, is there anybody else out there that really wants to do this that we could help out with? And so we do have some of that going on, but Schweitzer's really made it affordable. I mean,
yeah.
for the price point, the kids actually get a season's pass out of the deal. They get the 8 days with lessons, and that also includes rentals if they need it. So it's really tremendous. Yeah.
What's the cost, Adam?
The cost is $300.
Holy smokes.
Is
And
there
that
any-
contributes to our busing as well.
Yes.
So it's,
Right. Oh, okay.
there's a $20 chunk that we use
Still,
for
that's
busing.
really kind of right.
So is there any assistance for families that, find that unaffordable?
Aside from the donations that we've been able to get, and a few different organizations out there that hopefully, with a little bit of, small grant writing, that's kind of the next step for the program, since it's so new and kind of
Get
working
more
out with us,
resources.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, Adam, thank you for
Sure.
coming tonight and sharing the program with us. Adam, have a little.
Oh, wow.
Thank you.
Hold there for a second.
Oh, there you go. We all just,
Yeah, you guys can jump in on this.
Scoot in.
Kelly, you can get Oh.
Take off the mask.
That's
not bad. Nice. What's that smile?
Perfect, thank you.
At this time, I would like to invite Principal Kelly Knowles forward to share a school presentation with us from Kootenai.
Thank you. Okay. So I just want to start off, let me get that out of the way, whoops, by thanking you for making the decision to keep our kids in school and that we've been in school 5 days a week. We're building a family of learners at Kootenai, and we're grateful to be in the building every day. And we've all realized, all of us, including me, all the way down to our kids and their parents, that school's a gift that we can't take for granted. So I really want to thank you for making that decision. We are so grateful. And starting out, at Kootenai Elementary, we believe if a student knows you care about them, you can teach them anything. I'm going to show you a clip, and I don't know if you're aware or not, but Idaho Public Television contacted Kootenai over the summer, contacted me and Dr. Joy Jansen. They had heard about the work that we do, the trauma-informed work that we do at Kootenai Elementary School, and they were creating a documentary piece about resiliency in Idaho, and wanted to feature our school and how we are helping support kids, recognizing that kids come to us from hard places, and helping to build that resilience in our school. And so they came up over the summer and interviewed Dr. Jansen, myself, and one of our teachers, Mrs. Karst, who teaches 2nd grade. And then they came back in October and filmed some, I'm learning a lot about production from being a part of this process, some bead roll. And we couldn't let them in because of our protocol, so we took a screen out of a couple of windows and had a videographer videotape some of our classrooms in action. And so I just wanted to show you a little bit of that, and hopefully the sound will play so you can hear it really quickly.
At Kootenai Elementary School, there was a high amount of students who were having behavior problems in their classroom. I noticed that there was a pattern that their behavior had absolutely nothing to do with what was going on at school. I started doing research and figuring out that these kids have adverse childhood experiences before they ever get to us. And so reaching out and being able to just say, I need help with this. How can we partner and make this work better? And so our community partnerships have kind of blossomed because this community values education and is realizing that education is so much more than teaching. We have so many community resources that come into our school. We have counselors that come in. We have community partners. I have an advocate, a court-ordered advocate that comes in twice a week and volunteers. All of our teachers, our custodians, everybody that walks into our school and works here is trained in trauma. And it's those little partnerships with our community that is making Kootenai School the most special place to be.
The school district is actually the on-duty parent all day long, so it made sense for us to collaborate with them. The school district sees things that we necessarily don't see. We're in the homes, so we see things that are going on in the home that we can communicate to the school district employees as to why a kid's behaving the way that they're behaving at school. The more people that you can get to the table, the better it is to come up with a treatment plan and everybody be on the same page, addressing the issues that are going on with the juvenile.
Part of my responsibility is to bring programming curriculum that focus on social emotional learning and trauma invested strategies to the district. Trauma is not only just for students with low socioeconomics. Because we are a resort destination town, seasonal, we have students that are in the low and the higher range that had trauma in their life. I think what's different about Kootenai Elementary School is that we're not in a box and we try everything. We don't approach school as this is what we do and this is how you have to do it. Especially with kids who have a lot of ACEs or come from a background with a lot of trauma, it really is going with their flow and refocusing our focus on, we want these kids to learn. That's our end goal. That's our job, is to teach these kids. And I tell my teachers, I'll support you however I can. I'll come and be in your classroom. I'll give you a break if you need it. Whatever I can do to keep kids in your classroom and keep them learning and make you feel good about teaching all of them.
So that's just a little part. Thank you. The documentary is 57 minutes long, and Superintendent Albertson has a link to watch it if you are interested, and I can send it to you again. But we were really pleased with how it turned out and that we could be a part of it. This all that we do to believe in kids and make them know that they're safe at our school is working, and it's helping kids learn, and it's kind of the basis of everything that I've ever believed as an educator, and it's really awesome to see that the passion and this ideology that I have translates into kids are learning, because that's really important too. So I want to share with you, this is our Math Growth Celebration. These are our winter math results. The diamond in the middle is where MAP projected our students' growth to be based on how they did in the fall against national norms. And this is how we turned out in a pandemic year. So we're really proud of the growth that our students made. Every grade level that took the MAP in winter beat the projected growth. As you probably know, math has been our focus for the past 2 years. Even with the learning loss gap, we beat our growth. Our school-wide goal was that 50% of our students in grades 2 through 6 will reach or exceed the projected growth goal in math. Winter growth was 67.8%. So we've already beat our growth, and I compared it to last year's growth. Last year's growth was 58.8%. So even at that we shut down in March last year, we are ahead of our growth last year by almost 10%. So what do we attribute that to? A lot of teachers said small class sizes that we have this year. What I think one of the biggest things is that we've increased our math instruction by 15 minutes daily. We intentionally teach practices such as foundational skill math games that are hands-on and reinforce foundational skills. A lot of our teachers are incorporating daily number talks as entry tasks. We use a lot of really specific prescribed technology for math interventions. One thing we've incorporated this year is we bought some licenses for Math iStation. I know you guys know we use iStation to measure reading, but we bought some licenses for that, and we're really seeing some good response to that from the kids. We also are using part of our title staff to work with kids one-on-one or two-on-one that are older students that are still struggling in those foundational math skills. And that has really increased our growth as well. So we're really excited about that growth. And now what's next? We have celebrated our growth. We've embraced it. We're so excited about it. But now we're using our PLCs, our professional learning communities, to plan forward to great gains and proficiency. So we know our kids can grow. Now we want them to be at grade level. And that's our goal for the remainder of the year. So keep doing what we were doing in math and stay the course. As far as getting kids ready for the ISATs, teachers are working in grade level teams to create specific daily lesson activities that support the strands in ISAT that we have traditionally scored lower in, or as reported in winter math reports. We are also teaching students how to use the test, how to navigate the ISAT. There's a lot of navigation tools on there that they don't know exist, so we're having them practice that to get used to it, how to read and reread directions to ensure we understand what the question is asking. I wish I would have included a picture, but today I dressed up like a detective, the things that my teachers make me do, and I went into the fourth grade math class and I was searching for clues in the word problems that could help me solve them. And I looked just like me, but I had a hat on, and one kid said, "Is that you, Mrs. Knowles?" I was like, no. So the teachers are getting really creative on ways to make learning accessible and also make it fun. And it's really great to see that we've established a safe culture at Kootenai. We know that kids can grow, and now we're ready to get them to grade level, because it's a great call when you can call a parent and say, your kid is at grade level. I know last year they were entitled, but this year they're at grade level and we can exit them and they're on the great path. So that's what I have.
Cool.
Thank you very much.
Is there any questions from the board for Principal Knowles before she? We really appreciate having you present to us, and especially it's so encouraging to hear math scores.
So, question.
Yes. Yes.
How are your language arts scores doing?
Really high. Third and fourth grade, we were almost to the projected growth. Second, fifth, and sixth were way above as well. And so we're really breaking down our data in those thirds and fourth grades to see what are the specific areas that we need to focus on in flood. We've kind of rearranged our title schedule so our parapros can push in to classrooms and help those kids that are they're just really close to meeting their RIT. So
that's on the IRA, the MAP, and the ISAT. Your language arts scores are growing.
yes, and a really cool thing we did in kindergarten and second grade with ELA is our title teacher. We had a roaming sub that covered for our kindergarten and first grade teachers, and they met with our title teacher and used iStation data, and also iStation has some really good lesson plans that support areas where kids need, based on the data where they need extra help, and created lesson plans that the teachers could use to specifically teach to those skills.
I have a couple other questions here.
Sure.
In your school, you have a couple other things in our district. You have an all-day kindergarten program, and you have an after-school program.
Correct.
You know, could you say just a few words about the effectiveness of those programs?
Sure. I think that all-day kindergarten, because kindergarten is such an interesting animal, you're not just teaching kids academic skills, you're also teaching them ready skills, how to be ready for school, how to stand in line, how to wait your turn, how to sit crisscross applesauce, and build stamina for learning. And so I think that having a full-day kindergarten allows teachers to teach those skills with fidelity and also teach learning deeper. So they get to spend more time on the standards. Being in a half-day kindergarten compared to a full-day kindergarten, half-day kindergarten feels like a sprint. It feels like the teachers are like, okay, sit down, get in your pockets, okay, let's read, let's do math, okay, it's time to go. And so I feel like full-day kindergarten, it really gives them time to practice those things. A lot of writing happens in full-day kindergarten, which contributes to reading. And the after-school program supports, and Andrew could help me on this, but supports all of the things that we're doing at Kootenai. So they spend a lot of time on literacy, they read, they spend time writing. We don't have a lot of homework at Kootenai Elementary School, but anything that the kids need extra looks at or reteach to, we talk to the after-school program and they spend time reteaching those things or helping students with math. They're awesome. They'll help them with anything that they need. They do a lot of hands-on learning in the after-school program, and one thing, especially this year, we're thankful for is they do a lot of science, which, because of our shortened schedule, we don't get to spend as much time on science, and so it's nice that the kids get the opportunity. Plus, it goes back to that, the topic of the documentary is that they get to have another meal at Kootenai. They know that they're loved and taken care of, and they get a safe place to be for a couple hours after school as well.
Well, thank you very much.
Sure. You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you very
Yep.
much.
And I'm gonna just turn it right back over to you, Superintendent Albertson, for facilities report. And for Facility Director Matt Deal.
So, thank you, Chair Lewis. So, I've asked Matt Dale, who is the facilities, the maintenance and facilities director, to come and each meeting start going through, because as we started, we kind of looked at the overview of the work we've done on our facilities, and we know that it's an issue that we'll be looking at continually. But the last time we really had extensive work, which in the last meeting I did state that we don't need to keep throwing money out, going out and doing another study. We have a good study on where we are with facilities. But I think as a board, it's important for you that we keep refreshed on that. And then I'd also have asked Matt to say, okay, from 2018 till now, what have we done to that facility to keep it going? And we have a very talented team. And sometimes we forget that we're doing a lot of repairs. And Matt and I even talk about this. We forget about everything that we've done just because it's just what we do to keep things going. So anyway, this is the report that was done by Longwell Craft, and I don't know that we're going to be reading the whole thing. I'll try to make this a little bigger for the audience, but I'll turn it over to Matt.
Yep.
Thank you for having me. Brief overview of my department. I'm Matt Deal, Facilities Director. We have an office staff of 2. We have a maintenance team of 4. 3, we have a licensed electrician, licensed plumber, licensed HVAC, and then we have a carpenter. We have 2 full-time year-round groundskeepers, 2 seasonal groundskeepers. We have a warehouseman and a delivery person. We warehouse and deliver all child nutrition food along with paper and district mail and everything. Probably 10 to 12,000 pounds of food a week that we receive and then deliver to all the schools. We have 33 custodians. Our maintenance department, maintenance and grounds, last month completed 275 work orders. Last fiscal year, 2,900 work orders. We put a big emphasis on preventive maintenance, to be proactive rather than reactive. That's important in a new facility or an old facility. And we've gotten really good at the preventive maintenance and, trying to stretch the life of our facilities further than we already have. And we do a very good job at that. We have about 540,000 square feet, around 150 acres, and 14 sites that we maintain. So that's a brief overview of the department, and we'll jump into Sandpoint Middle School in 2018, 2.5 years ago now. I toured all the facilities. We spent a couple of weeks with myself, and I guided Corey Trapp, he's an architect, along with Jim Coleman, he's an engineer. We toured the district facilities, and this is the first school in the big report that was provided. There's no specific reason we're going through the middle school first, other than it's the first school in the report. So Sandpoint Middle School right now, I think, is about 506 students. The original building, which is the vast portion of what is there, was built in right around 1953, as best we can tell. We rely on the construction documents, so that's about as close as we can get. There were additions in 58, 62, and 1975. And there's also 7 portable classrooms. There's an annex and then a big bank of 6 portables
Do you want me to jump to the pictures?
or temporaries. Sure. So the portables were in 89 or so, best I can tell, 88. Temporary, we call them permanents instead of temporaries. So they're there they are.
What year?
I think Tom would know better than I would, but we don't have documents on that. I'm thinking 88.
I'm gonna say, 88, 87, 88, probably somewhere in there.
So the portables are challenging. There's ventilation issues. Unfortunately, we've got to put a new roof on it this year, which we really don't, we'd rather invest in our main buildings rather than the portables, but we couldn't stretch it any further. So that's the portables. I'm going to jump back into this report and just skim through it real quick. I don't want to just come across all doom and gloom about the facility, because the facilities are safe, they're clean. They're not new. Yeah, they have some ventilation issues, things like that. There's ADA issues abound. But there's a safe place for kids to go to school. Are they optimum for learning environment? No, they wouldn't be. The lighting, acoustics, ventilation, all those things do, have a big effect on the learning environment. So the site, there's ADA issues on the site. Definitely configuration issues with the parent drop-off and pickup, and busing is just kind of intermingled. Probably a lack of athletic space for the school. There's a lot of sharing with the high school. They do make it work, but probably not optimal. City and water and sewer is functional. We made some repairs to the sewer system a few years ago that made a big difference. There were some problems out by the street. There's a big grassy courtyard that we'll see a picture of. It's not really utilized. Just by design, it probably could be better use of that space. The foundation and walls are in pretty good shape, as far as structurally. But inside the building, there's ADA issues, there's, upstairs classrooms in the gym area that there's no access to, no ADA access to the stage, really no ADA seating in the gymnasium.
No, there's not.
There's a piece
That's
in
what
the,
it's all about.
there's a piece in here that I have a question for the architect about gym seating, but, it's a neat gym, the way the seating is all elevated, but it's really not designed to today's standards. A big problem with the gym is the roof sheds all the snow because it's a single ply rubber roof to the edges, and then the snow load along the edges gets too high, and so we have to do a lot of shoveling up there. The kitchen, I don't know how they put the meals out of that kitchen that they do. The child nutrition staff does an amazing job. It's very small and old. A lot of the doors in the building, well, all the doors in the building need to be replaced. The flooring is reasonably okay. The ceilings are high, which the architect does mention lends itself to a remodel. You could put things up there, but that's, not really here to make recommendations on something like that. Lots of other factors come into play with those considerations. The vocational classroom area is very hodgepodge. There's like weird convoluted hallways. I think over the years, the school district didn't have the resources, so they made do and built some things the best way they could afford to at the time.
Is that the hall right there?
This is actually.
That's the kitchen. That's the whole entire kitchen you see right there. That's the whole thing. Classrooms, there's varying degree of sizes of classrooms. There's a lot of the classrooms that are too small. They're probably 600 square feet. I think we like 900 square feet. Then there's some classrooms that are probably bigger than what you need. They're probably 13 or 14 or 12 or 1,300 square feet. So that's a little funky. The lockers are definitely just completely worn out. Over the years, they put eye bolts in them because they don't latch. So there's little eye bolts. Now, when you drive by in the summer after we get the grass green, it's clean, it's manicured, I think it looks pretty good. And when you walk inside, our custodial maintenance have done an amazing job with cleaning and buffing and painting. I think in the past 6 years, I think we've painted the entire inside of the building. This last summer, the gym got a complete makeover. The hallways were a yellow color, we painted.
So since 2018, what are some of the major projects or repairs that you've had to do to the building?
The biggest one that comes to mind is probably a recent one, is this December, I got a call from Jim, the custodian there, when he was unlocking. Actually, maybe even the librarian that found it. The library was completely full of steam. A heating pipe had broken, ruptured, just old. And it was actually, the ceiling was soaking wet, the walls. And we actually responded fast enough that I don't know how many books she lost, but not many.
Not very many. It was raining. It was literally raining in there.
Wow. Those are the type of things that I think we had the boiler shut off, the steam evacuated and ventilated to the building, capped the pipe, the heat back running before kids even got to school.
Yeah, pretty impressive.
And then we continued to dry the area. There was no insurance loss claim. But we do that stuff often, and it's really gotten routine. So unfortunately, I have to be prompted to what kind of things happen? Well, that's the kind of stuff we do all the time. With the lack of a major capital fund, we haven't done major capital projects for the building.
Yeah.
think I remember, there was a big thing on heating a couple years ago where the steam pipes got some redo.
Yeah, and so the heating system, the boilers
Boilers over by the
The
gym.
boilers are about 20 years old. Pretty good, really. The boilers are pretty nice. It's been like every inch of pipe out in the building is all original.
Yeah,
All the domestic hot water piping is all original.
yeah.
The windows, all original. The ceiling coverings, wall coverings, all original. Um,
Yeah, how you can.
Can I guarantee that we won't have, like, sorry, Tom, it's freezing cold, we've got a major leak at the middle school, I can't keep the building warm today. Can I guarantee that won't happen? No. It probably will happen. Don't want to be doom and gloom, just like, that's like real, but, so, there's the boilers.
Yeah, I'm looking at those pictures.
So Matt, thank you. I think that kind of gives us a little recap of
Okay.
the building
It does.
and some of the major repairs and some of the concerns we have of just watching for but I'd also entertain questions to the board for Matt on Sandpoint Middle School.
And I think at this time, it's good to remind the board that these are reviews of information we've had with the updated maintenance, but we're not using this content to have major discussion and decision. So it's informative.
I just had a question. Are we going through every facility today or just?
No.
just-
Just this
Just
one today.
one building.
Well, the study said had 3 schools that are recommended being replaced. And it had 3 others that it recommended could be remodeled and used. And Sandpoint Middle School was one of those. I guess my question for you, would you agree with that analysis, or do you think the middle school maybe has moved up to a higher priority in regard to
I think there's a lot of, I think the board has a lot of other factors to consider when it comes to answering that question.
I'm just talking about the maintenance as far as the safety and utility of the structure itself.
Yeah, well, and at the same time, we had, you know, a different report done a few years prior that recommended replace it. Remodel or replace can easily go either way, depending on other factors like the site,
Right,
Yeah.
okay.
and available funding and all those. I think it's a much bigger
It is.
question than I'm prepared to
Part of a bigger.
really speak to. Yeah.
Right, and actually, Matt, you make a good point, we're not at a stage yet to even
Right.
entertain that level of discussion, but I appreciate the update because it
Okay.
refreshes it for us
Yeah.
and gives us kind of a sense of where that school is, and thank you for the hard work of your team.
Yep, we've got a great team.
Yeah, you really do, thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Matt.
And I will just continue with you and Teaching and Learning Director Amber Murray are going to present some district-wide data for us.
Good evening. Well, it's a pleasure to follow Principal Knowles because I will show you some of that same winter math data at the district level. I'm back to give you a winter update and also, again, just to thank you for supporting our students being in the classrooms back in September because we are absolutely yielding great things. And so I'm here to highlight just a few of those briefly. Thank you. So you'll recognize that same chart. So this is district level data. We do take that math, the measure of academic progress, district-wide, all students in 3 through 6. Some schools use it a bit at K2. Some schools also use it at the secondary level, but district-wide. There's our data, again, looking at mathematics, which you know has been a multi-year focus for us, and a place where we sometimes see some lagging data. So in 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th, again, the diamonds project where we should be, and the bar is where we achieved between fall and winter. As a reminder, math would say that 50% of the students on average should meet that projection or exceed it. And you can see 3rd grade, we were up at 66%, taking all the students in the district into account. Right at that mark at 4th, well beat it at 5th, we were at 65%, and 6th up at 66%. So this is actually our strongest math data out of the last 3 years. I pulled 3 years of history. This is the strongest growth we've seen.
Which is encouraging.
It's really incredible. So we thank our staff and you for allowing our students to be in in-person instruction. I'll flash forward a slide and show you the same for ELA, English Language Arts, or reading. Again, we district-wide, 3, 4, 5, 6, met that projection or beat it. So again, 57% at third grade, all the way up to 63% at sixth grade. And at elementary, you have supported our Ready Gen, our reading curriculum was our most recent adoption with that boost of what we call equity, teaching those foundational skills. So we feel like we have really good phonics and pre-reading routines for our kids, and it's yielding gains from fall to winter. The other piece, I didn't put a slide, but I really wanted to highlight, as Principal Knowles talked about, we can make great growth, and we projected that we would because we were inheriting students in September who may have been in distance learning since March, and we know that looks different in every household and every family, so we projected really good growth. We also want to show proficiency. How do we look against grade level norms? What I would love to share with you is that in mathematics, we're at or above the mean, so the average nationally in 3 of our 4 grade levels. In ELA, we're at or above the national average in all of those grade levels. So not only did we really close the gap, but we're rising to kind of match those national norms, and that's super exciting.
Yeah.
So
Very encouraging.
it's really, really a tribute to our incredible staff. So I will also just wanted to highlight, I've shown you that bar graph many times, but you may not know what kind of information our teachers receive or our families receive. So when a student takes that math, that assessment in math, they receive strand data, and this is a snapshot district-wide of the 4 strands. So you can see how teachers then can drill that down to the specific student and even to some instructional suggestions for operations in algebraic thinking versus geometry. And as Principal Knowles mentioned, geometry is often a strand where when we come to that state assessment, our data is a little lower because in our math program, it's taught at the end of the year. So at elementary, some of our students haven't seen all those geometry concepts by the time the state test opens in April, because we're in school through June. So many of our schools, through their action planning, will really digest that data and boost that maybe into morning warm-up, maybe into some tasks they do in small groups, maybe into some pieces they send home. So they really do analyze this data down to the granular level, student by student. Similarly, if you haven't seen before, the ELA gives data to our staff about vocabulary use and also how students apply their skills in literature versus informational text. And that's been really valuable for us to track over time. Next slide. We know that we work hard on growth and the state test is coming, ISAT, the Idaho Standards Achievement Test. And so that we want to practice and we want kids to see, just as you heard tonight, what that interface will look like, what those expectations look like. So there are practice items put out by the State Department of Ed. And this year, as of this week, Lake Conroe School District had accessed over 5,000 practice tests. It could be in a classroom where 20 kids are working on their Chromebook, taking 10 problem practice on fractions. It could be that a high school teacher accessed one and projected it to the whole class and talked about it. So we practice in various ways, but that was really an incredible stat I wanted to share with you.
Yeah.
So we are thrilled about our growth, and we are aware that the state test is coming, and in small ways, we are absolutely working to practice for that too. The last slide is just a couple of thank yous. You heard some of these from Principal Knowles. We've had each building principal through our admin meetings in February got to share updates about their building data, action steps they're taking, maybe having planning meetings with the title team, moving resources, buying more licenses where we may need a boost, buying some licenses where we have high-end learners who need a challenge. So just there are many variables going on in this year, but some of the themes we heard from those building updates is just at elementary, we are in a shortened day, but we've taken that opportunity to really focus on reading and math. So we're trying not to shorten those instructional minutes in reading and math. We do have less transitions for our students and thus maybe more instructional time. We're not walking to the lunchroom, standing in line, walking back. Some of those transition have lessened because kids are staying with their teacher or in their classroom. We thank you for a consistent schedule. We've not been in school and then out and in, so we're very thankful for that instructional time. Our staff have absolutely focused on the most essential standards. So looking at third grade, these are the things I absolutely want to solidify by winter. So we know that's paying dividends through our professional learning communities and their focus. And then again, that we are both focused on intervention and trying to fill gaps, but also aware that we have students every day who need a stretch. So we really dig down into that data and try to do both. But those are just a district-wide look at our growth and our work, knowing that the state assessment is coming. So thank you very much for allowing me to provide an update.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amber.
Very nice.
Yeah, thank you. Well, we've moved along to the consent agenda time.
I make a movement that we approve the consent agenda.
I second that.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No, that motion passes. So we have a COVID-19 update from
Yeah.
Superintendent Albertson.
A little bit larger, so I'll start with the district data. And very exciting that things are looking better. We were down to the point at one point last week that we had no cases in the district, but then it went up to 4 cases, and now currently we have 3 cases. As you can see, there were 2 positive cases at Sandpoint High School and currently 1 at Washington Elementary. So compared to what we were talking about, this is very good news. As you remember, you as a board, we never did veer out of our yellow plan. And so at that point in time, what we're looking at right now is actually our county, using the metrics that they use, is in yellow. It's not red, it's not orange, it's in yellow. And I'm hoping that we continue with that trend. The percent positives.
We saw it for a second.
Yeah. Internet's gonna,
Kind of bumpy.
I don't know. Let's see if this one's gonna do the same. So here we are, this is Bonner County as of today. This is the 7-day average per 100,000 people, and we're down to 10.9. And if you take that back, that is approximately where we were back in October 18th. So again, very promising. Love to see that thing just bottom out. But, you know, got spring breaks coming up. You know, there's a few things to be a little bit precautious, but really that's really good news there. And I believe the percent positivity is below our metric that we always look at. I believe it might be at 2.9%. Now this goes back to, this is the state, and this is Bonner County, and you can see that I believe it is at 2.9%, and that was back on February 27th.
What was our worst? It was like
16.8,
Yeah,
17.7. So we're truly in that yellow. The metrics look good at this point in time.
That's terrific.
So,
Thank you.
is it time to start the discussion of going to full-time school?
So,
Regular class days?
I did
Yeah.
that's our plan for fall. I don't know that we'll,
We are planning
Changing the
right now,
schedule.
full day school for next fall. But right now, Gary, there is some concerns with, number one, just how we have the schedule built. And I'll use a secondary for example. And it was a very positive thing for high schoolers to only manage 4 classes at a time in the 4x4. And all the teachers prep went to the afternoon. So if you take the teacher's prep time in the afternoon, it's really like a 5-period schedule. And if you try to say, okay, kids are only scheduled in 4 classes, but we really have 5 periods, it's pretty problematic. My recommendation is that consistency, right, this year out with no changes for parents in the scheduling part of that, and put all our energy into preparing for next year.
You know, when we made these plans, these 4 plans last summer, we spent a lot of time, you know, talking about it, studying about it. And the word I heard consistent through the whole process was flexibility.
Correct.
You know, being able to change quickly, you know, to adapt, you know, to the health situation of our students and their families.
Yeah.
I think that because we are staying in our yellow plan, I'm in favor of keeping the schedule as it is, and the consistency of it through the year.
Anything's possible, but it would take, you can't reschedule students in classes and while they're in the middle of taking their classes. And that's the problematic at the secondary level courses.
Should we consider, another big consideration in our plans was being able to modify the schedules within the schools of our district. You know, should we consider going to full-day school in the elementary schools?
That would take some double busing. That would be a board decision. We would have to work out teacher prep times again. One thing, Gary, is we still have some families that are still choosing fully online.
They could stay there.
Well, but our teachers still need to manage that online presence, so we've got to give them time to manage that online course. And that was what our program was about, was managing that online course. So, for example, you know, here we are at 10.9, and we're really excited about it. But back in October, when we were at 10.9, we were nervous about it. It's funny how things
change. Well, we know so much more now than we knew then.
But I mean,
And
this
the
does
curve
give
was
us
accelerating then, and now it's deaccelerating.
So, you know, if that's something the board would like to entertain, that could be for future meetings.
I mean, we have a vaccination now. You know, most of our staff has been vaccinated.
Well, the staff has been offered a vaccination. We don't know how many staff have been vaccinated. But I believe every staff member who wanted to be vaccinated should have had that opportunity to be vaccinated. It was not mandatory. And currently there are no vaccinations for children, you know, but that's...
I mean, the goal is, and always has been, to return to full-time school. And I think we're getting really close to being able to do that safely.
Well, it might be worth taking a look at when we meet the next meeting, Tom, and you can have a little more data for us and see if it's worth doing, whether it's feasible.
I think looking at the pros and cons of the schedule, the upheaval, the changes, would be worth doing. I don't think it can happen just off the cuff because there's so many moving pieces to that. Definitely involves a lot of
I'd have to check with transportation.
I was just gonna say
Course,
transportation.
yeah.
What
There's a lot of
we'll be
pieces.
doing there.
And we're getting close. Fairly close.
I was just gonna ask, who knows how many weeks are left?
We have 4 weeks, excuse me, 4 weeks of this quarter and then 9 weeks of the,
So 9 weeks after spring break.
so we have 13 weeks.
Yep.
So we're like
Or
2/3
spring
through the
break
school
in
year.
there.
And I appreciate your comments.
Yeah.
I do want to say though, again, and it's been brought up several times, is consistency is important, and that we're not changing up and down. And I've heard that from parents, is that they like that they've got their schedule
Well,
set.
I applaud you and your staff. I mean, we have a great plan. We've stuck to our plan, while our brother and sisters districts have, you know, moved from plan to plan. I'd also like to note that, you know, school districts around the state are going to full-time school now, you know, including the Coeur d'Alene School District.
I think by that you mean 5 days a week.
I thought it was full-time school, what I understood.
I believe they went from 4 days, they went from 2 days to 4 days to 5 days.
To 5 days.
They didn't change what they were doing, I would have to check and see, they were giving that Wednesday for their teachers to work on their online.
I know they've changed several times in the school year, but they, you know, their
They've gone
plans
to
like
5 days
ours
in.
are flexible,
Yeah.
and they've used that flexibility, you know, to change their schedule several times through the school year.
Well, I think that if we can just look at the pros and cons going forward, obviously, I think we would not be even considering doing anything in this quarter. It would be post-spring break, but again, it's a little early to have the discussion until we have a little more background on what that would look like. I would like at this time to ask Clerk Fisher.
Yes, you guys had in your board packet the resolution 2103 certificate of closure. If you recall, I apologize, I don't have the date right in front of me. I think it was
February 12th.
February 12th. That was a severe temperature or wind chill factor day that the superintendent called. So I just asked that you approve that resolution for minutes, to receive those minutes back from the state.
So I will take a motion for that.
I'll move that we approve resolution 2103, certificate of closure.
I
And
second.
moved and seconded, any questions?
No.
Is this a roll call vote?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, and that motion passes. And then we have the first reading of 2 policies.
All right. So again, I did present these in your packet. We're continuing in the 4000 series that we started a couple months ago. I'm only presenting 2 tonight, so just starting with the first one, policy 4100, public relations. There is really just some formatting changes there, as you can see, to the header and a capital D, and in the last paragraph, just some clerical changes to that policy. But we haven't reviewed it since 2005, and like I said, I am starting in the 4000 series, and it's good for you guys as a board to just be up to date on all of our policies as well. Any questions regarding this one? No? Okay. And moving on to policy 4105, this is public participation at board meetings. I will fix that header as I just read it. I realized that in the packet that does not need to be struck, so I'll fix that at second reading.
Okay.
This is an optional policy, as you may know. It is not by Idaho code that you allow public comment at your board meetings. I'm presenting this as we have a policy, and I have made it and followed ISBA, our Idaho School Boards Association guidelines, and additional paragraphs that are added for legality purposes. However, that would be discussion if you wanted to have it tonight, if you want to continue our practice, which I think the board historically has always supported. So I would just leave that open to discussion now, and then I could go through the policy, or?
I would say as board chair that I'm definitely in favor of keeping the public comment section. It's structured enough, and it's very useful for us to have the opportunity to have people of the community able to come forward and share their views with us. So I'm definitely in favor of keeping that. So I think everyone here is.
Thank you for that, and I'm sure our community fully supports that as well. Statewide, the districts that do have this policy do follow this structure that is presented. There's not a lot struck in this policy, as you can see, other than just some legal additions to it, just to, you know, members of the community who present will be recognized by the board chair, just some procedural changes in there.
Also, statewide, you will see that most boards who do allow this policy give a time limit, 30 minutes maximum, just so their meetings don't go 6 hours long. And 3 minutes, that's a pretty standard. I saw when I was doing a little research from 1 minute to 5 minutes. So that would be something that you guys could discuss further as well. But I would leave this policy up to any questions that you may have if you saw something that.
I read through it and I feel that most of what's in this policy is already in practice for our board meetings, and I don't have any changes to what's written here. Does anybody else?
No, I support the existing policy.
I just, publicly, I'd like to say the notice that you would see that is added in bold is a notice that would legally qualify for you to hear something in executive session. And that is really important. If you had somebody come up for public comment that became personally directive about personnel or a student or something in that matter, that you would need to consider that solely in executive session, which is protected under code. So that's the most important addition to this policy.
Right. Okay, there is no action on those two items, and at this time, I'm open to announcements.
I'll start. Sandpoint High School Academic Decathlon team, this past weekend, were state champions. It was 3 times in a third time, or third, 3 years in a row, I guess. And now they will be participating in the virtual nationals competition. Clark Fork High School boys basketball team won the district title, and then did make a trip down to state. A very successful season for them. We got some Sandpoint High School cheerleaders I know that have qualified for state, and they will be making that trip. And also, it just feels so good that Andrew and I are about ready to complete a full round of getting to every school on school visits, and ready to start round 2 and getting back into schools more often. So that feels really good. I mean, to lift my day up is to get in and see the kids smiling and learning. So those are the announcements I have.
That's very good. I will just see if any administrators have anything to add. Okay, well, hold on, let me hear from the administrators.
Wrestling's right in the middle of it. It's great to see kids involved. And we've got a ton of kids on wrestling, so it's fun. Basketball just finished, wrestling's going. It's just cool to see the involvement there. And yeah, it's really good. So.
Great. Principal Moore. Anything other than we already heard?
We're still so happy to be in school, and every day is a gift. And everybody's happy, teachers are happy, kids are happy, parents are happy, so it's wonderful.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Andrew, anything else to add?
No, thank you so much.
And Melinda Rothman, anything else?
There is a lot going on. I'm designing a new program. It's a certification program for 7th and 8th graders. So I'll implement it next year. Really excited about that. I'll share more later this year with you.
Good.
And get ready to start spring sessions, and every class is filled. I'll have 148 kids in attendance every week.
That's really
Pretty exciting.
Is that where you're at right now, too?
That's how many kids will be in attendance right now. We have 104 students on the roster.
Okay.
Well, with those,
I'd like to make an announcement. Today has quietly passed, but it is a landmark day for Lake Pend Oreille School District. Lake Pend Oreille School District did not run a levy today.
Yeah.
As we all know, our state legislature chooses to underfund education and puts a tremendous burden on every school district in this state, to raise a significant amount of their resources, between 1/4 and half of their funds locally. Our patrons in our district, after 20-something years of passing our biannual levy in November of 2019, very generously approved an indefinite term levy for this school district. So we have the security of going forward without wondering whether our next levy is going to pass. I think that's a tremendous thing for our community.
Yep.
At the same time, I'd like to say I support, our brother and sister districts around the state, West Bonner, Boundary, Coeur d'Alene, Post Falls, Lakeland, are all running levies these days, as well as, well over 80% of the districts, who educate, over 90% of the students in the state are all dependent on levies, and today is the most popular levy date in the state, and I'm just glad we're not one of them this year.
We're all thrilled. Excellent. Well, with that, our meeting is adjourned. Thank you for coming.